Santa Claus is coming to town, and he is swinging a hammer. The Last of Us has dropped its first trailer. The Guardians of the Galaxy celebrate Christmas, and big shock, James Gunn has flipped over a table at DC. All this, plus a little bit more, as we salute Kirstie Alley tonight. That's right, 918ers, it's Thursday, and we're back with our last few shows of 2022. I'm your host, the Geek Boy. Joining me tonight is Goldar, the gamer with a golden throat, and the commander of Ice Station 918. Mr. Narwhal is in the house as we celebrate this fantastic week. Good evening, gentlemen.
Hello.
How's it going
out there in the nice warm 918?
I was going to say, what are you looking at up there, temperature-wise, bud?
Oh, we have a heat wave going on up here. We're in the mid-20s at the moment, so yeah.
Nice.
Mid-20s and only about 6 or 7 inches of snow on the ground. So
Only?
we're doing good.
Well, and you've added more. You must like it so much you're like adding CG snow behind you.
I am, up here at Ice Station 918. The snow is very apropos for the season.
Yes, it is. So, Goldar, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing good. Just ready for a good show tonight.
Yeah, me too. We've only got a couple more of these left. I'm not sure how many more of these we're going to drop before we actually go on break for the holiday. I'm sure we'll have to do something Avatar based. Because, in case anyone's missed it, there's an Avatar movie opening in a week or so. But I'm sure we'll. Hell, I've still got to see Wakanda. I'm gonna try to work my way around to do that tonight. So anyway, I want to welcome you guys, and I want to welcome anyone who may be watching. Please. As always, if you have any comments that you want to make while on the things we're discussing, please put them in and we will respond to them. Also, if you're watching in a time-shifted mode, please leave them anyway, and we will do our best to respond even after the fact. Also, please leave a like and share this video all around the interwebs if you're so inclined. Jump over to our YouTube page and like and subscribe to it as well, as we are trying to grow our presence on that platform to the point that I think we're going to move to YouTube exclusively for this broadcast starting next year. So if you want to help us grow our presence there, we would certainly appreciate that. Also, we want to give a shout out to one of our distribution partners, our only distribution partner, and that's Audacity TV. They are an OTT, an over-the-top service, kind of similar to Roku. And for the foreseeable future, they'll be carrying our best segments of this program that Mr. Narwhal has graciously been putting together for us. He's been making the journey to the secured salt mines where we have the Fanboys 918 secured archives and putting things together for us. So we appreciate his efforts there. It's a great way to kind of watch the best of segments of this show. You can watch them on your big screen and not have to watch them on your phone or your tablet. And they're carrying other pieces of programming as well. They've got some episodes of The Talking Geek. I'm trying to get some episodes of Real Love together to get over there to them. But one of the other things that they are carrying for us is they're carrying some legacy episodes of the show that Goldar is doing for us. Goldar, you want to kind of let us know what you do for us?
Yeah, so I head up Fanboys Nightcrawlers. I play a horror or action game for you every Sunday. I release an episode. Right now, we are legacy episodes that are airing on Audacity TV are The Last of Us Part 2, but on our main YouTube channel we are playing The Last of Us Part 1, the original. And I chose to play this game because The Last of Us is actually premiering on HBO Max in January. So I thought I would give some of our audience the opportunity to see the actual story of the game, how it plays out, and then able to watch the show to see what the difference is.
All right, and so you say that, and I think that's kind of just a good transition. We got the first full trailer for The Last of Us that dropped. Was it earlier this week?
Yeah, it was earlier this week or late last week, and it looks fantastic. It looks like they have most of the main characters that appear in the first game. I'm not too attached to this. Well. It's kind of. I was gonna say I'm not too attached to the story. Normally I'm not, as long as they get the characters correct and the relationship between the characters correct, you can take it any direction. But so much of what the story is related to the character themselves. So it's kind of hard to stray on this first one without without going off too far off the path.
Okay, so
but
no, go ahead. Sorry.
What I was going to say, but so far it looks like they're following the story pretty much, just based on the characters that I saw that appeared and some of the scenes that I saw in it.
Okay. Because, like I say, I've watched your segments of Last of Us Part 2. I haven't been able to watch the Last of Us Part 1 yet. So the only kind of connection I have is watching you play it, basically, since I'm not a gamer. Hey, Jason Barker's here. What's up, Sprout? But I guess my question is, so nothing. I guess you kind of answered it. Nothing that you saw in the trailer jumped out like, what's going on?
Nothing. There do look like there's some deviation from the story, but I don't think it's going to be like major things that'll just like, oh, this is horrible. Because basically the story is Joel and Ellie are just traveling across country to go see the Fireflies. And that's really about it. The reason for that, if you're watching me play, you'll know what the reason for that is. If you haven't been watching, then I won't spoil it for you, so you can see it on the show or on my game if you want to watch me play it. But that's an important piece there. But anything else that happens along the way, I'm pretty much okay with, because a lot of it is relationship building between Ellie and Joel. So whatever situations that they create, as long as their relationship and how they start out resembles how they end towards the end of the game, I'm happy with that. I consider that a success.
Okay, well that's good. By the way, Sprout's using the show to personally message me. Geek Boy, you never call me back. You better call me tomorrow. I will call you tomorrow, sir. I will call you tomorrow. I was supposed to call him.
So Goldar, for someone who isn't overly familiar with this franchise, we've had a lot of zombie-esque kind of programming over the past few years. For the segment of our audience who may be going through zombie fatigue, what sets this apart from all the other projects like this?
I would say the plague aspect of it and the zombies that come about. I would say the zombies in the which are basically clickers and runners, or what they're called in the game. They might call them something different in the show. They're not the main centerpiece of this story. They are kind of like what they did a bit with The Walking Dead, where they made it more about the people and their relationships and their conflicts, and how scary life, is because of the way, men and women will react in that type of situation, versus just, constant zombie mania. So, and that is an aspect of it, but it's not at the forefront. So I think as long as they place those zombie situations carefully throughout the story to just create tension at appropriate times, I think people will definitely enjoy it, because again, really it's mostly about the relationship between Ellie and Joel that's building, and the scary situations that they come across with actual live people in this post-apocalyptic world.
Gotcha.
Okay, yeah, that's actually Mr. Narwhal kind of took my question, so that's good. That's what I was wondering about. So okay, so is there anything else that you saw in the trailer? Again, you're more familiar with this franchise than either one of us. So is there anything you saw in the trailer that just jumped out at you like, oh wow, they got that?
I'm actually impressed with just the quick scenes that we saw of what the clickers look like.
Okay.
Seeing them in live action. The special effects or practical effects, I don't know which they use, because they looked so good. We'll find out on the show. I was impressed with that. I'm actually really, really excited that Pedro Pascal took this role. There were a lot of people that could have played this really well. Like, I can't remember what his name is. He played what's his name? Kingslayer in Game of Thrones. A lot of people wanted him to play it.
Yeah, Nikolai Walter Kostow, something or other.
Oh, the
Yeah.
Lannister guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of people wanted him to play it. I've seen, pictures or fan art of other people playing it, but I'm really excited that Pedro Pascal took this role because I like him as an actor. I like what he does on The Mandalorian. And Joel is a very kind of gruff character, so he's an excellent pick to play Joel.
So what you're saying is that it should not have been Chris Pratt. Then is that what I'm hearing?
Well, considering how well Chris Pratt is doing the Mario voice, I'm gonna say no.
Dang, y'all, man, brutal. Sprout says he's waiting for like a zombie reality TV crossover. He wants a zombie Bachelor, the Zombie Dashians, RuPaul's Zombie Race. That's what.
Oh, you know what? There is a what's it called? There's two versions of a show where it's like they're filming a reality show and then zombies actually break out during it.
Oh God.
Hold on. Let me look this up.
Oh my God.
It's
well, I was going to say zombies can't go anywhere near, or at least traditional zombies can't go anywhere near reality TV shows, because we know that the only thing that the zombies are interested in is brains, and they don't have any of those anywhere near the majority of these reality TV shows.
Woo, man.
So the show's called Dead Set, and it's a 2008 British show where people are filming Big Brother and a zombie outbreak takes over and they're trapped inside the studio. It's fantastic.
Really?
It is like, I think it's only like 3 or 4. It's only like 3 episodes, and they're like an hour. No, I think they're about like 20-30 minutes a piece. So it's really just an hour and a half, but it's fantastic. Now, there is an English version, I believe that's by the same name too, that's actually like 10 episodes. So it extends the original story much further, and it's okay.
Okay.
It kind of follows the same path, and then it kind of goes differently, a little bit different. But it's I think that's an interesting take on it. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed both versions. So
Gotcha. Okay.
if you're looking for something like that, Sprout, that's it.
He's like, damn, I was cracking wise, and look at that. So, all right, well, I'm glad that you're impressed with the trailer, because sometimes when the trailers even drop, like I remember when Cowboy Bebop dropped, everybody loved the tone of the trailer, but there was a lot of things in it they were seeing that gave them problems. Now, Goldar, I don't remember. Were you excited when you saw the trailer for not Evil Dead, Resident Evil?
I was, but in the back of my mind, I kind of had a feeling like they're gonna fuck this one up. Like, they just can't seem to like stick to the plan. Like just, they don't understand the assignment. Like the Welcome to Raccoon City is probably the best interpretation of any Resident Evil property that's been made in live action that we've gotten. And it was still just okay.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it.
Well, they can't seem to get Mortal Kombat right, and they've already got one that did it right. I mean,
well, and that's the crazy part. The one Mortal Kombat that did it right was in the 90s.
Yeah.
When people just didn't know how to make Mortal. And what the worst part is, it's the same guy that did the Resident Evil.
Yeah.
So it's like, you understood Mortal Kombat, but you didn't understand Resident Evil. I don't understand. I don't get it. Like, why? What are you doing here? So, I don't know.
I think Sprout's talking about Resident Evil, said they fucked it up like Willow. Yeah.
See, I haven't watched the new Willow.
I've only watched, I don't know how many episodes are out. I've only watched 2 of them. And it's about what you'd expect. A reimagination for, what's the 2 words I hear when I either read or hear? I just cringe because I know what it means. Modern audiences. And I just, oh, God. I know what that means. So, anyway, and Sprout ain't wrong. I don't think I hate it as much as he does. It's when I have so much other stuff to watch, because Willow's gonna, it's not compelling me to watch it, I guess, for lack of a better term. Like, I started watching 1899 on Netflix, and man, freaking Christmas movies rolled around, started messing up my groove, because I really am digging that show.
Yeah, I watched the first episode and I'm like, ooh, this is very interesting.
Yeah, very interesting show. So
Not checked it out. I've been digging into Wednesday myself.
oh, do you like it?
So far, yeah, it's not bad. I mean, it's not a great show by any stretch of the imagination, but it's not bad. It's not bad.
Jessica really liked it. I don't know if she's finished it yet or not, but she's really liking it too. So, yeah. So there's a lot of stuff that we can really, there's so much stuff out there. It's almost impossible to keep up. But before we move on, I want to take time out to acknowledge one of our show's sponsors, and that would be the only sponsor, which would be us. Peeps are always asking me, where can I get one of those mighty fine Fanboys 918 shirts? And I've got good news for you. You can get one, as well as a lot of other goodies, at our swag store, which is actually open, right now. And I think we're going to talk about that here in this little promo.
What is this place? What is it that you do here? Merchandising.
Merchandising? What's that?
Merchandising. Come, I'll show you. Come, walk this way, take a look. We put the name on everything. The t-shirt, the lunchbox, the breakfast cereal. Kids love this one. Merchandising, where the real money is made.
That's right, gang. We have our own swag shop store that is open and has been open for a while. So jump over there and purchase your favorite Fanboys 918 paraphernalia if you want, and support us. It supports our channel, supports our show, and supports our ability to bring this fine program to you every week. So with all that feckless shilling out of the way, and we've talked. I promise that's our last piece of self-promotion. We're going to move on to our next item. I'm sorry, before we do that, any final comments on the Last of Us trailer before we move on?
No, I think that covers everything.
Okay.
Got
Sprout
it.
says, you have Fanboys 918 ladies underwear. Shot glasses. Sure. Yeah. Oh, so Sprout says, I'm assuming he's talking about Resident Evil. He said it was just as much garbage as the Dark Crystal reboot. I heard mixed things about that. Did any of you guys watch the Dark Crystal reboot? Obviously, Sprout has.
I hadn't watched it.
I think, again, I got 1 or 2 episodes in and something else got my attention. I've heard some people that really like it and some people that don't. So... interesting. So
I was never a massive fan of the Dark Crystal growing up, so I didn't really have any inclination.
I loved all the designs, and I loved the craftsmanship and the artistry of it, and the story was some of the vocal performances got on my nerves after a while, but again, it's not a movie that I bag on or anything. And if someone asks me, and I haven't seen it in a while, so I wouldn't mind watching it again. But I know a lot of people that like Sprout said, they either think this thing was garbage or they can't believe it didn't get a second season. So that's one of those ones that's kind of a hard needle to thread. So all right, guys, let's move on to our RIP segment, and it's an RIP that hits really close to home for a lot of people. That's right, folks. For those that may not know, we learned earlier this week that actress Kirstie Alley had passed away at the age of 71. The news was released by her family, and it shocked a lot of folks in a lot of different fandoms. Keep in mind, she's not someone whose name kind of floats to the top of the list, when you think of people who've been involved in multiple arenas of pop culture. But she was one of those fortunate actors. She made her screen debut in Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan, and she gave life to the character of Lieutenant Savick. And in my opinion, this is not a slight against Robin Curtis. She was the most memorable embodiment of that character. Fans have always been disappointed that she chose not to come back for Star Trek 3 and 4, but hey, that's life. She also did something that few people have been able to do, and that is in 1987, she stepped into the role of Rebecca Howe on the NBC sitcom Cheers. She replaced Shelley Long, and that show actually remained popular, and her character actually became as beloved as the one she replaced, and that really doesn't happen very often. In addition to standout roles in those two popular franchises, she also had several box office successes, most notably the Look Who's Talking franchise, and she would later go on to show up on TV in several series such as Veronica's Closet. She had a short-lived sitcom called Kirstie, obviously, and she even competed in the 2022 season of The Masked Singer. So, that's kind of her, the 40,000 foot view. She was not afraid to be open and transparent about herself. She openly displayed her battles with her weight and her body images in public, sometimes to the chagrin of others. She did a show, I don't know who remembers Fat Actress. Anybody remember that?
I remember that.
No, I don't remember.
She did a show about Fat Actress, or called Fat Actress, is when she was at one of her largest times. And it was about an actress that was, she smoked too much, drank too much, and just every bad thing you can imagine an actor in Hollywood doing, she put on display. And the show got her a lot of attention, but I actually remember I read a story. Leonard Nimoy called her and said, "Why are you humiliating yourself that way? Why?" And I appreciate the fact you're getting paid and all that, but he was really, he was really distraught that she basically made a parody of herself to do that, and I don't know that had anything to do with the show not coming back, but I know that it didn't last very long after that. So there was that. Now, she was also not afraid to kind of walk her own path separate from Hollywood. Now, I've said many times that Fanboys 918, we are politically agnostic, but so we're not trying to push any one viewpoint or another. But let's just say that she embraced several political stances that were, shall we say, outside the norm in Hollywood, which got her a lot of flack. But she stood her ground, and again, I say this with admiration to her. She wasn't afraid to stand up for herself, and again, anytime, and I'm not picking on any viewpoint, but you guys know this. Anytime you decide to make a stand against your tribe based on your own principles, that takes a lot of courage. And it, because you're going to go through some crap, and she knew she was going to, and she did. News of her passing was released by her family, who related that she'd had a brief but unsuccessful battle with cancer. Fanboys 918 sends its condolences out to her friends, family, and her fans everywhere. You guys have any thing to say about Kirstie? I got a couple of addendums to this, but I didn't know if anybody wanted to add anything. Goldar, do you have anything to say?
Not particularly. I just really remember her roles for Look Who's Talking and Look Who's Talking Now. Those movies kind of cracked me up a little bit when I was a kid. So. But yeah, no, I remember watching her on Cheers too, but those were the most popular things that I remember seeing her for. So yeah, definitely condolences out to her family. I don't think we want to get into the Scientology aspect of things. We'll just leave that.
Yeah, that was one of those things. Yeah. So, but yeah.
But yeah. But yeah, condolences to her family, and she'll definitely be missed.
Right. Mr. Narwhal?
Yeah. The movie that I remember her from, and it's not one of her bigger movies, but I know that it has a pretty sizable cult following, is a little film that came out in 1999 called Drop Dead Gorgeous. If you haven't seen it, it is a awesome film talking about the the culture of the beauty pageants, and it has a star-studded cast, especially for the time. It's got Kirsten Dunst, Denise Richards, Ellen Barkin, Allison Janney, Kirstie Alley, Brittany Murphy, Amy Adams. I mean, it's got a lot of star power. It is a hilarious film. It's very biting satire in the film. If you haven't had a chance to go and check this one out, definitely add this one to your Netflix queue. It's a really good showcase, I think, for Kirstie Alley's talents outside of the mainstream stuff that she was doing.
I saw that a long time. There was a time where I was really into indie film, and I saw that. I forgot she was in that, but yeah, it's a good movie. It's a darn good movie. My favorite one that people seem to forget she was in, and that's the funny thing, Goldar was talking about, he remembers her from Cheers and from Look Who's Talking. I was looking through IMDb. She had a lot of films that were very successful at the time. Like with the time they dropped, they were very successful, but they never, kind of like we joke about some other things, they didn't leave any like lasting pop culture impact. You know what I mean? Like she was in a movie with Mark Harmon called Summer School, box office hit. Didn't, but no one really talks. No one wants to. Hey, let's go home and watch Summer School. No one does that. She did another one with Tom Berenger and Sidney Poitier called Shoot to Kill that I loved. It was kind of an action thriller. I mean, it's not the best movie, but it was good. It was entertaining. I mean, it was a financial success as well. So it's really fascinating that she was involved in Star Trek and she was involved in Cheers, and she did all these other things, and nothing really seemed to hold on, except maybe the Look Who's Talking movies. So I do want to read something, and I'm not a big fan of just reading articles and reading things word for word, but sometimes when you feel like this person has said it better than you could, and if you paraphrase it, you're going to ruin it, you do that. Two things. Robin Curtis, the actress who replaced her as Saavik in Star Trek 3 and 4, sent a message out today. I don't know if this was a tweet or what, but I want to read it because it's very moving and it's pretty awesome. It says, "It's strange to be connected to another human being and to never have met them. You may say we occupied the same beautifully lit room for a time, but not at the same time. And just like that, our lives were forever linked. In 1983, I was cast as the second actress to play the role of Lieutenant Saavik in Star Trek 3. I was 28 years old. No doubt I understood the magnitude of being cast in a popular science fiction franchise, but little did I comprehend that this association would be for me something that would stay with me for the rest of my life. I've attended countless conventions and had the pleasure of meeting countless wonderful people who love Star Trek as they love life itself. And the question frequently arose, what was it like to assume the role someone else established? I write about Kirstie Alley. And my stock answer, my sincere from the heart answer, was always that at the time, it meant everything to me that my good fortune hadn't come as the result of Kirstie's misfortune, that as far as I understood the situation, she had intentionally negotiated herself away from that role because of other more compelling opportunities had come her way. As time went on and the years unfolded, I think I held hope that one day, when someone asked that question, I could share that I actually had met Kirstie. That serendipity had put us in the same restaurant, same studio parking lot or soundstage, and that she and I acknowledged one another with a loud hello and great belly laugh. Imagine, the two of us, each of us in our own right, an effusive, ball-busting, sassy female, strong and opinionated, and anything but reserved, being cast as a controlled, stoic, and unemotional Vulcan. I fantasized that we'd share a bizarreness and wonder of that moment, and the connection would give birth to an enthusiastic and hilarious repartee between us. Perhaps for me, running into her would have become the ultimate cherry on the cake of my whole relationship with Star Trek. I don't know. Whatever it would have been rich. Kirstie, you made your own way. You were truly one of a kind. I missed you on this side, but I'll sure to find you on the other. I know it'll be a hoot." I read that and just had to post it at Fanboys 918 because it was great. One of the other things that I saw that was really moving was Ted Danson, her co-star on Cheers, posted something. He said, "I was on a plane today and did something I rarely do. I watched an old episode of Cheers, Danson, who played Sam Malone in the Below series, said in a statement to People. It was this episode where Tom Berenger proposes to Kirstie, who keeps saying no, even though she desperately wants to say yes. Danson then gushed about the truly brilliant late actress, saying her ability to play Rebecca Howe was both moving and hysterically funny. As I got off the plane, I heard that Kirstie had died. I'm so sad and grateful for all the times that she made me laugh. I send my love to her children. As they well know, their mother had a heart of gold, and I will miss her. So, I mean, even though she, took some stands that disagree with a lot of people, she will be sorely missed. So, with that, we want to again send our condolences out to her friends and family, and know that there's a piece of pop culture that we'll be missing. By the way, Joel Serblin is here with us. Hey, Joel, good to see you. So we're going to move on to our next topic. Since and this is kind of a breaking news segment that we're gonna do, and I'm gonna bring up a little breaking news graphic now. The reason I chose to do this breaking news is because this dropped really late last night. And I'm going to I've talked a lot about Kirstie Alley, so I'm going to turn it back over to Mr. Narwhal, who broke the story. There's been a big shakeup at DC. Mr. Narwhal, and I know Goldar is going to have no shortage of comments on this. Mr. Narwhal, you want to kind of give us the facts, the story that you dropped about Wonder Woman?
Yeah, so Hollywood Reporter has dropped an exclusive yesterday, saying that Patty Jenkins' Wonder Woman 3 has been permanently shelved. They have looked at how much money the last film made, and also looked at sort of their plans for the DCU going forward. And they have decided at this point to part ways with Patty Jenkins over Wonder Woman 3. And so what this means for Gal Gadot's portrayal of this character, it's sort of up in the air. We don't know if they are going to bring Gal Gadot back under someone else's stewardship, if she is going to have some part in the DCU going forward. They may very well decide to either recast not only her but the rest of the Justice League characters at some point. Perhaps start with a clean slate, as it were. But as it is, they have decided at this point to not go forward with Wonder Woman 3. That is direct from the Hollywood Reporter.
So Goldar, news of a shakeup at DC, and other breaking news: water is discovered to be wet. What do you think about this?
I mean, I kind of knew it was coming, because it was like, they canned the Batgirl movie, which I was like, that seems kind of odd that they canned Batgirl movie, but they like greenlit like Birds of Prey, like they greenlit a story with the most obscure characters plus Harley Quinn. It was like, and we knew that they were doing a Flashpoint movie, which is like very much a time travel, reset the timeline type of thing, because that's what New 52 came out of. So many years ago, DC Comics, when DC, just like Marvel, mostly DC.
Yeah.
Mostly DC resets their universes and then starts kind of fresh, whereas Marvel, they don't really reset anything. They just kind of like do stuff over and over again. They only did a soft reboot with Secret Wars in 2015.
Yeah.
So that, Flashpoint is their reset kind of movie coming on the horizon. And then we don't have any more Superman, and we don't have any more Batman movies for DCEU. So I kind of had a feeling, I'm like, this is going to end pretty soon, because we can't just keep having Aquaman and Wonder Woman movies just to lead and Shazam movies to just lead this into the future. Like, they both have part 2 or 3 coming out. That's going to be probably the end of their contract at some point, and they're going to want to move on to something else, or sign on for maybe one more movie. So that's 4 movies for each of them. This isn't going to go on forever. Like, and then on top of that, like, the people that were in charge of DC were dropping like flies. and it sounded like there were a lot of infighting too.
Oh yeah.
So I was like, this is going to crumble at some point. And then they said James Gunn was coming, and I'm like, oh, he's going to wipe the slate clean, like 100%. Like, I'll be surprised if anything really comes out after this point. Like, I was really thinking they were probably going to can that Flash movie after they hired James Gunn. And then the Aquaman movie got pushed. I'm like, is it still coming out? But I feel like they spent too much money on these films to just let them go. So
yeah, they'll take a $90 million hit on Batgirl. They're not going to take no $200 million hit on Flash or Aquaman.
Yeah, so they're going to release, Shazam, Aquaman, Flash, and then Blue Beetle, I believe.
Yeah.
And then that's it. That's the end of the DCEU. It was I don't want to say a wild ride. It was
it was a ride.
It was something.
So here's the release schedule that they have coming up for 2023. March 17th, we have Shazam 2 coming out. On June 23rd, we have The Flash. August 18th, we have Blue Beetle. And then December 25th for Christmas, we have Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. So now, if they're going to do a reset with The Flash, how is that going to impact, you think, Blue Beetle and Aquaman? Do you think those are going to be sort of like set before the reset, as it were, or do you think that it's just going to be hand waved away and just forgotten about?
So my assumption was, I thought I heard that Aquaman was going through reshoots, which is supposed to come out after Flash. So my expectation was that they shot these movies that were going to coordinate with Flashpoint by just reshooting the ending, just to say, oh, what's happening? This weird blue wave.
Yeah.
And that's the end of the timeline.
Oh yeah, 100%. They're going to use Flashpoint to reset this thing. I mean, but and I think we talked about this a week or so ago, or whenever we brought this up last time. The first thing they did when they hired those two guys was like, okay, now you got to look at everything we got. And I wouldn't even be surprised if they watched Batgirl, even though it had already been canceled at that time.
I'm sure they did. Well, and what I've heard too is that as easy as it would be to blame James Gunn for the cancellation of Wonder Woman 3, from what I've heard, that was actually a decision that was made by the previous administration. They had looked at the treatment that Patty Jenkins had submitted, and they were like, "Yeah, this is as bad as Wonder Woman 84."
I was going to say, okay, let's talk about that for a minute. If this thing was the flaming turd that Wonder Woman 84 was, they did us a favor by canceling it. All right, let's be honest, right? I mean, Wonder Woman 84 was not a good movie. It was entertaining, and the funny thing is, it's not my least favorite DCEU movie. That's the really sad part about it. But and it's not like, well, I got done that. Well, there's 2 hours, I'll never get back. No, it wasn't that at all. It's just there was a lot of problems with that movie, and there was a lot of fun things about it. But I'd say it's kind of like the theatrical cut of Batman v Superman, although in totally different reasons or totally different ways. There was a lot of fun things in it, like the truck chase in Cairo and all that kind of stuff, and the thing at I mean, there was a lot of fun things, but the story just like it was almost like they were shooting a first draft. Like, did anyone ever think to ask, like, how does a wish work? How does this all work? And the wish may work one way for Mr. Narwhal, but it works a totally different way for Goldar. It's like just a lot of stuff that didn't make sense. So, and the fact that there was just so many things about that movie that were just should not have been allowed to go through. So yeah, if her, and I'm not trying to disrespect Patty Jenkins again, we're fans, we're just talking out of our ass. But if the movie was in the same vein as that, they did us a favor. They did the DCEU a favor, and they did the Wonder Woman brand a favor, I think. Goldar?
Yeah, I think we've all been, not just me, but everybody's been spoiled by Marvel at this point.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Like, we don't want to watch a bunch of disconnected movies that just don't have anything to do with each other. Like, look what happened with Phase 4. Like, nothing seemed to like connect with each other.
God, yeah.
And we're pissed.
Yeah. Yeah, we are.
So imagine how, like, imagine like looking at DC that same way. Like, it's kind of like, what is this? Like, none of this makes sense. None of it's connected. You just making movies just to make money. Like, just stop it.
Yeah. Yeah. And unlike DC, well, and DC kind of had their backs against the wall when they started, because, Marvel had trained us that, hey, all this is going to be connected. They trained us by that point, and DC was trying, but they just, I don't know, man, their reach kind of exceeded their grasp, and they didn't want to do the work of, doing all these individual origin movies. Like, if they dropped Man of Steel and then Wonder Woman, and then a Cyborg movie, or even, I don't know, hell, even a Flash movie, and then introduce Cyborg in Justice League, and given Aquaman his, they made all these movies in the total wrong order, but.
So then you also got the issue of what do we do about The Rock, about Dwayne Johnson? Because we're looking at the box office for Black Adam, and it's made something like 390 million, I think, by this point after 7 weeks, and you think, oh, well, that's pretty decent, chunk of change,
right?
But when you consider that the movie costs 200 million to make and more than 100 million to market, we're not talking about a lot of return on that investment,
right?
And especially then considering that his vision for the future of the DC cinematic universe doesn't seem like it's lining up with what James Gunn and Peter Safran are sort of planning on. He's basically all in on trying to get the next Man of Steel movie done, and then he wants to do Man of Steel versus Black Adam, and he would much rather push Shazam off a cliff than keep focusing on him. I just have to wonder, how he is going to fit into this whole new DC extended universe. Right.
Well, and one of the other things that I've heard rumblings of, and I don't think it was in this article, but I've heard rumblings that Aquaman and the Lost City could be Momoa's last outing as Aquaman, because rumor has it James Gunn wants him to play Lobo.
Yeah. Well, I know he wants to play Lobo as well.
Yeah.
That's been one of his dream jobs. And especially when you consider, look at James Gunn's track record. He likes those odd beat characters. He likes those sort of bad boy type of stories. I could absolutely see him going for a Lobo film. And if that lets them keep Jason Momoa in the DC stable as an actor, with his star power and his fan base, if they decide to move on from all of the established Justice League actors and recast and start fresh and start anew, I could see that being a way to sort of appease him and make sure that he gets what's due him.
Yeah, and here's I can't see them. I mean, who knows what's going on, but I don't know anybody that's been unsatisfied with the casting of any of these characters except maybe Ezra Miller. I mean, before that guy went off a cliff, I was even like, this guy's not the Flash. But, Ezra Miller notwithstanding, I've been really happy with all their casting choices. So I think it would behoove them to entertain keeping Henry Cavill as Superman, maybe bringing Ben Affleck as Batman. I mean, I'm surprised James Gunn hadn't met with Ray Fisher, honestly, as much as he likes those secondary characters. I don't know. Goldar, what are your thoughts? Do you think they'll keep the cast, or do you think they'll totally just wipe the slate?
I'm thinking that they're gonna wipe the slate, because it'll probably be too confusing for fans to like watch them start over with the same people, because then they're like, wait, because you look back and like 10 years from that, they'll be like, wait, so are we watching the first run of the DCEU, or are we watching the second run? I don't know Which one? Because all these people are in the same ones. So where does this take place in the timeline? It'd just be confusing. So I think
Right.
they're going to recast everybody. If anything, they will do what they're rumored to be doing with Marvel and Secret Wars by bringing back old people from previous Marvel movies into this new one just for like a final goodbye. So they could do that with like an Infinite Crisis or something like that. Some DC Crisis where they bring in alternate reality versions of the characters and then they bring those people back for one outing.
Well, right now they could call it Identity Crisis.
Which I think it is. I think Identity is one of their. Oh, it's. I think so.
It is actually. Yeah. No. Well, and I've also heard that the studio in general is really unhappy with the whole Zack Snyder faction that's out there, who are really pushing to reinstate Zack Snyder, to make everything, the grim dark version that he originally envisioned and started off with. And so I wonder if maybe that is playing into that a little bit too, that, they're like, we just want to completely divorce ourselves from the entirety of that Zack Snyder universe that previously existed. Literally wipe the slate clean, start as fresh and clean as we possibly can, and go from there.
Right. And I get it. I mean, here's the only thing about the Snyderverse that I really, really dug. And by the way, I don't think there's anybody on this show tonight or anybody who's seen it that would debate that the Snyder cut of Justice League is a far superior film to the one that we got. I mean, I don't know anybody that would debate that. Granted, Man of Steel, Batman v Superman, and even Snyder's cut of Justice League all had some issues, but I do have to say that I loved his Alex Ross inspired Gods Among Men take on the DC characters, right? Like Superman, Wonder Woman, Aquaman are basically gods among men, and Batman's like the mortal that managed to climb Mount Olympus, and kind of consort with. I loved the whole, every frame of Justice League looks like a damn comic book panel. I mean, so that doesn't make that, mean that if you took all that slow motion out, it wouldn't be a 2.5 hour movie, but it is what it is. But what I really am inspired by, Mr. Narwhal, because you were saying the studio's not happy with, maybe wants to divorce itself from Zack Snyder, which could potentially, rankle the feathers of a large, I don't know, who knows how big, but a significant portion of the fan base. And I remember when you're talking about movies like The Last Jedi or Terminator Genesis, when some things leaked out that the fans weren't happy about, the creatives basically attacked the fans and said, well, you're stupid because you don't like what we're going to do, and you're just a bunch of man babies, or you're a bunch of ists and phobes and whatnot. I would like you to read what James Gunn posted, because I really, what he posted and the manner he said it should be the master class in how creatives respond to the fans. Would you mind reading that?
I would be happy to.
Okay.
So this was posted by James Gunn today on Twitter, and it was also released by Warner Brothers as a press release, essentially. So, as for the story yesterday in the Hollywood Reporter, some of it is true, some of it is half true, some of it is not true, and some of it we haven't decided yet whether it's true or not. Although this first month at DC has been fruitful, building the next 10 years of story takes time, and we're still just beginning. Peter and I chose to helm DC Studios knowing we were coming into a fractious environment, both in the stories being told and in the audience itself, and there would be an unavoidable transitional period as we moved into telling a cohesive story across film, TV, animation, and gaming. But in the end, the drawbacks of that transitional period were dwarfed by the creative possibilities and the opportunity to build upon what has worked in DC so far and to help rectify what is not. We know we are not going to make every single person happy every step of the way, but we can promise everything we do is done in the service of the story and in the service of the DC characters we know you cherish and we have cherished our whole lives. As for more answers about the future of the DCU, I will sadly have to ask you to wait. We are giving these characters and the stories the time and attention they deserve, and we ourselves still have a lot more questions to ask and answer. End statement.
That is awesome. That's how you respond to an upset fan base. Would you agree?
I think it's a really interesting way to sort of, be very upfront with it, to sort of not do the standard backpedaling kind of thing. It's essentially talking to your audience like they're a bunch of adults.
Yeah.
Which I think is a refreshing change, not only for DC, but for this kind of storytelling in general. A lot of filmmakers and a lot of studios tend to look down on their audiences and their partners at times.
Yeah.
And knowing that James Gunn is being very upfront and saying, yes, we know we're not going to make everybody happy, but we want to do what's best for the characters and for the story. And he's earned a bit of trust with us, with his storytelling.
100%. Goldar, how do you feel about this statement?
I think it was a great statement. It's just a good way to speak appropriately to fans and say, hey, hold on, we're evaluating everything and we want to make something that's worth watching. I appreciated his approach to that, because he talks to us like we're people rather than, we're just, fucking plebs that, just enjoy what we made. This is great. Which, you know what though? Like, honestly, I don't think I hate on that many things. Like, I come on here and I talk a bunch of shit, but I feel like I don't hate on that many things without reason. Let me put it that way.
100%.
So, when studios are like, oh, you should just love this. And it's like, who did you make this for? Like,
yeah.
You clearly weren't thinking about us when you made this. So I don't know what audience you were trying to do. Like, you were trying to be like cool or, hip among your like Hollywood elite, rich folk that are like, oh, look, he reinvented Star Wars with his script that he approved. And it was like, yeah, okay. Yeah, you're not winning any points, at your high school reunion with this one, bro.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, no, I think James Gunn, he did really good with this quote. So I appreciate that he talked to us like real fans.
Absolutely. And like Mr. Narwhal said, if Peter Safran had made that quote, you'd be like, all right, dude, you just been the producer. But Gunn, he's kind of earned our trust. He's got a lot of street credit, and everything he's done, he's done pretty well on. And I mean, I know I'm in the minority of people that didn't think his Suicide Squad movie worked all the way through. I thought 75% of it was great, and the last 25%, when it turned into a kaiju movie, it kind of went off the rails for me. But I still had a great time. I loved Peacemaker. I've loved both his Guardians of the Galaxy shows, and that's another reason why I'm real bullish on DC right now. With him at the reins, I am just ecstatic about what he might bring to DC. And I'm going to kind of use that as a way to jump off to talk about something else that he just rolled out that, again, he wrote this in a day. He wrote this on a Sunday afternoon and tuned in to watch it thinking, okay, this might be a good way to, blow, 45 minutes or whatever. Oh my God. Goldar, since you've already been talking, why don't you talk about the Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special and how great that was?
I thought the Guardians of the Galaxy Special was great. It was pretty hilarious. They took, the two characters that don't, well, I wouldn't say two characters that don't get the most screen time. Drax gets a pretty good amount of screen time when he's in a Marvel property, but Mantis, not so much. So it was kind of fun to see like Mantis come out and, be her quirky self with some of the jokes that she did. And it was really fun seeing Kevin Bacon as Kevin Bacon in the MCU. I thought he would show up in the MCU as playing a character at some point, but it was fun to see him play himself, and how a real celebrity would react to somebody trying to kidnap him and take him to space. It was really fun. And this again, like, this is an example of like why Marvel is great, is like they paid off on some continuity. So like, if you remember back to Infinity War, Peter Quill said something to the effect of like, is Footloose still the greatest movie of all time, or something like that? And it calls back to that. Like, Peter Quill loves Kevin Bacon's character from that movie. So like, it was like, oh, okay, this is great. Like, it connects to something.
Right. Yeah. And my only disappointment is kind of piggyback on what you said. It's like, oh man, does this mean Kevin Bacon can't play a character in the MCU now because he's played Kevin Bacon? Granted, he made the 6 Degrees of Kevin Bacon game like just totally 100% easier now. But so he was in Endgame, and so was Kevin Bacon in Guardians of the Galaxy. It's like, so okay. But was that anybody know, was that Kevin Bacon's band? Because he's got a real band. I wonder if that was his band that was in all the makeup and prosthetics and stuff.
It was not. It was a band called the Old 98s, I believe.
Okay.
It was a group that that James Gunn found and really liked, and decided to wrap into the movie. Man,
you can't get a more James Gunn scene than that when they're trying to sing that Christmas song to Peter Quill. I mean,
that was pretty hilarious. I thought that was cool that they pulled it in, and he was like, "What are they doing?" Like, or Peter Quill, like he was responding that way. So that was really funny. It was kind of interesting that they just kind of roped Astro in and just didn't really explain it. They were just like, okay, now we got a talking dog.
I know. Well, and Ben, I can't tell you the number of people I bumped into like, oh my God, Astro. I'm like, okay, I didn't know that was that big of a thing. But there's a lot of people that are just jazzed about it. And they love the voice too. I mean, they were just like, I never really gave a whole lot of thought to it, but all right. So
it's one of those things that the Guardians of the Galaxy, the comic is such a deep bench of all of these wacky, random, offbeat characters that literally it's like a playground for somebody like James Gunn, and that there are still characters floating around in the Guardians of the Galaxy books that we haven't even seen yet,
right? That
are major characters in these stories, and they're beloved. People like Moondragon and Phyla-Vell and all these other groups that are out there. For a while there was a rival group of Guardians of the Galaxy when the team sort of split off, and one team was headed up by Rocket and the other team was headed up by Gamora, and they were actually competing against each other and fighting each other for mercenary jobs.
Oh my God.
There's just so many really wacky kinds of things. Here's my question though about the Christmas special. So, this was really sort of a good showcase for both Mantis and Drax. I wonder if they decided to feature those two characters because they're not as much of a focus in Guardians of the Galaxy 3, because we know that really Guardians of the Galaxy 3 is going to be more Rocket's story, as well as sort of tying off the whole Peter Quill Gamora storyline, and then we also have Will Poulter as Adam Warlock.
Right. Oh, that's right. They're bringing Adam Warlock in. Yeah.
Yeah. So I wonder if maybe they decided to feature those two characters specifically in this Christmas special, mostly because we're not going to get a lot of them in the movie.
That's a good question. I don't know. My question was, and maybe Goldar might be the expert on this, is where exactly does this take place in the timeline? Because my understanding, Wakanda Forever was the ending of Phase 4. So is this the beginning of Phase 5, or does this take place, especially like, we learned that they acquired Nowhere, and unless I missed something, I don't recall that happening. By the way, wasn't that awesome, that set with all the lights on it? That was amazing.
Yeah.
That looked great. So I'm just curious, have we heard where this actually takes place in the MCU timeline?
I don't know.
Okay.
I would presume it could, honestly, because it doesn't interfere with the timeline, it could be before Wakanda Forever. It could be after. What I did hear was that for Guardians 3 takes place a while after Thor: Love and Thunder. So
okay.
I presume this takes place probably, I would assume, after Wakanda Forever, and then Guardians 3 takes place much longer after this point.
Yeah, that's right, because Thor wasn't with them. That's right. So
yeah,
and I'm sure it probably took a while for them to contact the collector and broker the deal, and it seemed like they were still trying to get things sort of set up and established, but it would also seem like it had not been when they had just literally landed and started that work. It seemed
right,
like they had a little time under their belt at that point.
Right. So, well, it was a great, and honestly, I'm really digging these Disney specials way more than I'm digging their shows. I mean, Werewolf by Night, we gushed about it a month and a half ago when we reviewed it. This has been really good. I'm really leaning toward, granted, I'm not the Disney CFO, thank God, or I'd be out of a job. But I really think that they should really look more, and I realize there's not as much content to pump out, but I really think they should look at these things way more than they should look at these 9, 10, 11 episode series, that they've been pumping out. I think this would have been a great vehicle for the Hawkeye show, something like this, instead of, even if it's only like an hour and 10 minutes, I think Hawkeye would have been better served in something like this than that series. What do you guys think about that?
I agree. I feel like the Disney Plus format, really at max should be a mini series and not like an actual like full on season. Like, give us 3 1-hour episodes. Like, I think that's good enough. They told a lot of story in Endgame for 3 hours.
Yeah.
Right? So I feel like 3 1-hour episodes, they can tell like a pretty decent story. It's not a big investment for people to watch it, but if they miss it, they might miss some details here and there, but like, it's not so painful for them to like, oh, let me go back and watch that. Yeah. Whereas like a full-on TV show, this weekly format too, like, I'm going to get on my soapbox on this one. I do not like these streaming services releasing stuff by weekly formats. I know they got to pump their numbers up, like Matthew McConaughey told us in Wolf of Wall Street, but that's some horse shit. Yeah. They need to release the whole season and let us watch it start to finish so that we can just be done and move on.
Right.
But yeah.
Here's
Disney
the thing
Plus
with that though. But sorry, I got to interrupt you. But here's the thing with that though.
I know what you're going to say.
Certain shows work better if they are released on a weekly schedule. We've seen it where an episode comes out and you have to sort of absorb it and sort of think about it and let it really sort of work its way into your head before you can watch the next episode. I've seen a few series with the streaming thing where everything just sort of like gets dumped at once, and I sit down and I try to binge the entire thing, and it doesn't really hit me in that I don't have time to sit down and think about the implications of what's going on, and my mind doesn't have time to sort of digest it, and I can't think about, well, what about this and what about that? It gives me time to sort of understand what's going on, but then also to anticipate what's coming next. See, I think that certain things work well as a binge, but I think there's a lot of shows and a lot of IP out there that really lends itself to that weekly kind of experience.
And and to that point, I totally understand that, but dumping it all at once, that gives me the option to like take some time out to stop and like rethink about an episode and revisit, rather than like, okay, I'm ready for the next one, and then I have to wait a whole week.
Yeah.
Like there are some shows that do that. Like, for example, Netflix's Dark. Like, I had to watch an episode a few times before it made full sense, because that got real confusing before I moved on to the next one. But at least it was like out there for me to be available, rather than just kind of, like I had to wait for it. Because there are shows like, for example, She-Hulk. Like, I don't think we really need a full week to digest that before we move on to the next one, right?
Shows like She-Hulk and like Star Trek Discovery, the longer you have to think about it, the worse it makes the show. Like, because I told somebody, I binge watched, I watched season 1 of Discovery as it came out and was like, I'm not really impressed with this. And then for some reason we binge watched it. I'm like, it plays better as a binge because I don't have a week to go, well, this was stupid because of this, and this violates canon because of this, and She-Hulk was kind of the same way. Like, the longer I had to think about it, the show was so damn hand wavy. It's like, just don't think about it. Well, then give me the whole damn show. If you don't want me to think about it, just let me watch the whole thing and be done with it, but
yeah,
well,
I mean,
go ahead, Goldar. Go ahead.
No, you can go ahead.
Well, I was just going to make a joke saying that you younger people with your wanting to watch all the series at once. Yeah, back when we were young too, we had to watch it week by week. God forbid if you missed an episode, because then you missed that episode for all of time. You never got to see it again. And we had these knobs that you had to turn on the TV.
Oh my God, Erie!
Trying to get to the channel that you needed to find. So
yeah,
off my soapbox.
and God forbid, Mama threw the wrong TV guide out. Because then nobody knew what was on. Golly.
Yeah, or if your VCR ate the tape.
For shame.
And then you couldn't go back and watch it, and you're like, well, I'm never seeing that again.
Well, not even that.
Oh, the worst part.
Oh, I think I know what you're going to say. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say the worst part is if you're taping something and your tape runs out before the show is over. That's painful. That is a pain untold.
Actually, the worst. I give you one pain worse than that. Then we're going to shut up about how old we are. I went to record the series premiere of Star Trek: The Next Generation, Encounter at Farpoint. It's a 2-hour episode. I knew it was a 2-hour episode. I only set my VCR for an hour, so I got the first half of Encounter. Thank God you recorded the whole thing. Thank God. Saved my life, man. So anyway, yeah, it's kind of, they're doing it because, they want to keep retention. But, as Netflix has seen, you drop a new season of Stranger Things, people are going to sign up. If you have content that people want, they will stay there.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, that's really what it amounts to, is like, just make content that people really want to see, really want to see, like, make good stuff. And I feel like the only studio or streaming platform that's really doing that right now is Netflix. Like, they're pumping out, like, something to watch. There's decent stuff to watch on Netflix. Like, as much as we bag on all these movies and television shows that are coming out that are just okay or mediocre, Netflix has got a lot of stuff that they produce that's watchable.
Yep, absolutely. And you always know what you're going to get.
Yep.
And Netflix is unabashedly, it's kind of like the Hallmark Channel of streaming. Like, you can't hate it because they know what they are. I mean, like, if something that is high art happens to land, you go, hey, well, that was cool. Good for you, Netflix. But you don't, I guarantee you right now, Turtle Gal's in there watching a Hallmark movie. I can't make fun of, I rib her about it, but I can't really hate on them because it's like, they're so unpretentious. They know exactly what they are. They're not high art, and they know it. They're TV comfort food, and they don't care. So,
yeah. Well, and they're easy to make too because they all have the exact same plot.
Well, yeah, it's the one where the girl goes to the place and does the thing and saves the business.
Yeah, and and just like with all the holiday movies too, the big city girl goes to the small town, and her big city ways, fall off as she gets charmed by the local yokels in
Yep.
the overalls, and
Yep. And if it's a Hallmark holiday film, you have to have a scene of eating cookies and drinking hot chocolate.
of course,
And there must be a tree farm.
It's literally movie Mad Libs. That's exactly
Yeah,
what it is.
yeah, pretty much so. All right, any last comments on Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special before we move on to the last topic of the night?
I was just gonna say, like, yeah, just like what we were saying, specials I think are Netflix's niche. I've actually heard that they're reevaluating Phase 5 and 6's slate because of the complaints that they've heard about quantity over quality. Which I think is true. I think Disney Plus was basically to the detriment of the MCU, to be honest, at this point.
Oh, for sure.
I think that they just didn't have any content for it. They knew Marvel was a cash cow and Star Wars, and they said, make as many shows as you think you need to fill up the slate. And Kevin Feige was like, okay, let me see what I can do. And he stretched himself too thin. And then he didn't get to make all the properties that he wanted to, and guess what? You know what? That some of the TV shows kind of suffered. Some of them were just kind of watered down and just okay.
Yeah.
But these specials, we've only had 2 of them, and they've both been 2 for 2.
Yeah.
They didn't wear out their welcome.
Nope.
They got to the point, and they didn't deviate from the story. They didn't deviate or introduce anything to the story that makes you have to watch them all the way through.
Right.
You can just enjoy them at your own pace.
Yeah.
And that's important.
And they were both they had a lot more artistic leeway, it seems like, than the shows did, or the series did. You know what I mean? Like Holiday Special, it's very, very James Gunn, and Michael Giacchino directed Werewolf by Night. It's definitely its own piece, and I don't know that they would have let him do a 6 or 9 hour TV series in black and white. I really dug it. So, go
ahead.
No, I was going to say that this goes back to why I'm so bullish on James Gunn taking over DC. People don't know that that Kevin Feige was already starting to get stretched thin before, but he had Gunn on the payroll, and Gunn was like, he gave all the script notes for everything, like the end of Phase 2 and all the way through Phase 3. Like, he had a question or had a problem, go see Gunn if Feige wasn't available. And James Gunn helped them craft the triumph that led to Endgame. And he was going to map out the whole Phase 4 and 5, the whole cosmic phase of stuff. And then when he got fired, they didn't have somebody other than Kevin Feige they could go to. And I think we're seeing the results of that. And again, that's why I'm so jazzed about DC getting him. I'm sorry, Narwhal, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was going to say that that one of the other benefits of doing a lot of their stuff with the special route is that it's a relatively low cost, low impact way for them to find out exactly which properties really click.
Yeah,
work. Hey, look, we had a Werewolf by Night kind of thing, and find out that wow, these characters really click and they really work. Maybe we can develop something more with them. And if they had gone through and maybe done that with some of the other characters and some of the other stories, maybe we might not have seen some of these extra long things. It could have been just a one and done for some of these properties.
Yeah, I mean, or even
yeah.
I would love to have seen Falcon and Winter Soldier as three 1 hour episodes, and. Because, I mean, I really dug that show anyway. WandaVision definitely could have been shorter. And Moon Knight would have been a prime candidate for a special, I think.
Yeah, I agree.
So, yeah. But, Goldar, you got any last minute comments before we move on?
No, I think I said everything.
All right. Well, our last topic tonight, guys, is... I'm going to do a brief review because I think I'm the only one that's seen it, but I'm certainly going to entertain comments from my other 2 co-hosts here. I'm going to review Violent Night, and for those that don't know, this is the Santa Claus takes on terrorist movie, and unlike Die Hard, there will be no debate. This is a freaking Christmas movie, okay? There's absolutely no doubt that it's a Christmas movie. And I loved this movie. I'm always on the lookout for a good Christmas time action flick, and this is another one that'll slot right in on that list. It certainly leans into its premise for sure. I mean, you've got Santa Claus, a mythical supernatural figure, openly making contact with the real world to combat terrorists and all the implications that come with that. The writers really put a lot of thought into the script as far as what that would mean. Like what happens when you have someone like Santa Claus who can supposedly do all these, he can go around the world an entire night. I mean, how does that, what's that look like if he's fighting terrorists? And I'm not going to lie, I could not help but think about that spoof movie at the beginning of Scrooge. The night the reindeer died, the whole time I was watching it. I mean, who knows, maybe this is what that movie was supposed to be. I don't know. It gets an A+ on the creative kills. It's John Wick, Deadpool level, like, up in that realm, after to the next level. The action is very well directed. The choreography is great. The geography of the action is always consistent and logical. So the performances are universally good across the board. But the three principals, which is David Harbour as Santa, John Leguizamo as Scrooge, no kidding, and Beverly D'Angelo is kind of the matriarch of the hostage family. They're all in top form. But the biggest surprise was from Leah Bradley, who her character's named Trudy. She's the daughter that has the radio that's talking to Santa, who kind of pleads for Santa to rescue her family. Her performance is top notch, 100% believable and consistent with the movie she's in. We recently rewatched Home Alone, and I love Home Alone. I think everybody loves Home Alone, but Macaulay Culkin's performance can be a bit hammy in that movie, in certain parts of it. So, I want to see more of her in the future, and there's a lot of great needle drops in it as well. So for me, you've got a movie that totally embraces its premise. It's got great action. It's got great performances. So that would have been enough just to earn a solid 3.5 stars from me. But then they go one better, and they throw a true heartfelt Christmas theme, multiple heartfelt Christmas themes into it. They gave all the characters arcs and motivations that are understandable and relatable. I mean, the arc they give Santa Claus is fantastic. They give him kind of a window into his backstory. When we meet Santa, he's burned out on what Christmas has become over the course of his life, of his 1,100 years of doing this. All kids want now is money and video games, and he's upset about that. It takes all the joy out of it for him. And over the course of the film, he rediscovers his own love for Christmas and the holiday. And so, they put that little bit of extra effort into it, and that was enough to bump it up to 4 stars for me. Now, the reason it didn't get that elusive Geek Boy 5th star, it's not a perfect film. The language can be a bit much in places, and I'm no prude. I mean, you guys know I love me some Bad Boys, but when I start thinking, okay, if you less F-bombs would have been just fine in this scene, I mean, that's a problem. And Turtle Gal kind of pointed out there's an argument on whether or not the family that is being held hostage is truly redeemable. Because the little girl and her family are, but the extended family, they're pretty shallow and not very nice people, let's say. So that's kind of my thought on it. One of the other things I kind of took away from it, kind of looking at after the fact, is this is a very teachable moment for Hollywood. I think this film was made for like $20 million. And as of today, I checked before we went on, it's earned $24 million, and it hasn't even been out a week. It actually overperformed this past week. I mean, Wakanda Forever still held the top spot. I don't think anybody thought that was not going to happen. But just kind of like John Wick, I think this shows that for the right price, you can introduce a new IP and have it resonate. They are talking about a sequel, and I don't really know that I want one that bad, but who knows? You guys have heard me talk about this, and you've seen the trailers and whatnot. What, Mr. Narwhal, you were saying before we went on, you want to try to get to see this. Have I encouraged you or not?
You have absolutely encouraged me. I've long been a fan of sort of the alternate Christmas story genre, from obviously the films like Scrooge to short films like Prep and Landing. I enjoyed the Klaus movie that was on Netflix a few years ago, all the way to things like Arthur Christmas, which I thought was a brilliant reimagining of what Christmas is and what Christmas, sort of how Christmas could actually work, once you sort of take away some of the more magical elements,
Right.
how it might actually, happen. And this movie definitely sounds like it falls, squarely into that kind of genre, things like Anna and the Apocalypse, and trying to think of some of the other, things like Rare Exports, things like that really sort of, take the idea of Santa Claus, and sort of twist it and turn it on its head and look at it through a new lens, that really, I think, helps us to appreciate not only, the cleverness of the story and the cleverness of the filmmakers, but to your point, also helps us to appreciate sort of the genesis of those ideas and the idea of Santa Claus and Christmas and all the sort of accoutrement, as it were.
Yeah, yeah. Goldar, do you have any interest in seeing this, or?
Yeah, no, I saw the trailer and I thought it would be a fun movie to watch. So I'll definitely watch it. I don't know that I'm necessarily going to go out to the theater to watch it.
Yeah.
But I'm definitely going to check it out. I like David Harbour. I like the idea of, like a Santa Claus that's blowing stuff up and shooting people. Like it seems like a kind of like fun kind of throwback, action film.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing this.
And like I say, they bring in a lot of things that like, well, it is like what I like about it, and they walk this fine line of Santa has in this the incarnation that David Harbour puts on, he has a lot of things at his disposal, right? Like he has his bag that is kind of a dimensional doorway. Because he reaches in and gets the present. So like a guy tries to stab him and he holds the bag up and the knife goes into an alternate dimension, and the knife comes out with a present. He's got that, and he seems to be super strong, but he's not immortal. Like, Santa really does get hurt, and he gets, he's worried he's going to die. And you get the idea that they never, again, there's room to explore his backstory in a sequel. Again, I don't necessarily know that we need one, kind of like, had they never made another Pirates of the Caribbean movie past the Curse of the Black Pearl, that would have been just fine, and while I do like a lot of the sequels of that, they're not all great, and you could argue they diminish, they have the law of diminishing marginal returns is kicked in, but hell, look at Fast and Furious. We've been there for 3 films and they still make those. So I was really glad that David Harbour, this is his second shot this is his third film and his second role that's really landed with people. People loved him as Red Guardian, and I've loved him as this. Unfortunately, his Hellboy movie was hot garbage, and which was unfortunate because I really thought he looked great as Hellboy. But he read this. They pitched him this idea, and he's like, "What? What?" And he's like, "Fine, I'll read it." And like by the time he started reading it, going, "I don't know how this is going to work." And by the time he was finished, like, "Where do I sign?" Like it's so heartfelt and so great. It's again, your mileage may vary. We wanted to see it just because we wanted to see something different, and we knew we couldn't. We were not in the mindset to see Wakanda Forever, so we're like, well, let's go see this, and we went to see it and really had it. I think Turtle Gal was a bit kind of like, okay, but she liked it. She didn't like it as well as I did, kind of like Bullet Train. But it's just so great. Now, a lot of the supporting cast, I'm not sure who they are. Like, they all look like someone, like there's one person, oh, that's Molly Shannon. Oh, that's not Molly Shannon, but she sure looks a lot like Molly Shannon. And that's not him, but he's an actor that sure looks, there's a lot of that. Like, that's probably how they made it for $20 million. I mean,
they're stunt doubles is what you're saying. Right?
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, this thing's made $24 million on a $20 million budget in less than a week. So it's well on its way to profitability. I mean, even if it has a good 40-50% drop, it's still going to come in at, over 30 million, 35 million for it's 2 weeks before Avatar opens, and that gonna demolishes everything. What do you guys think? You think that between this and, I'm really surprised, and I'll go to Goldar because Narwhal and I've been talking. I'm really surprised that movies like that, John Wick and Bullet Train, and now this, haven't shown Hollywood. We need to kind of look at these mid-range, lower end range films. Maybe we could really make a good bank off these. What do you think?
Yeah, I think there's going to be a trend of that because we're still kind of in this state of post COVID where people are just not going back to the movie theaters like they were. Just looking at Black Adam, Black Adam was not an offensive film. Like it was okay. Like
right.
It looked like the trailer made it look like it was an entertaining action film. I watched it. I enjoyed it. It wasn't perfect. Was it as good as Wakanda Forever? No, but I still think like it, should have made a little bit more money.
Yeah.
Instead, it's only 300 something million and it's like a month out. It's probably pretty much done. It's probably going to be on HBO Max in another month.
Yeah. It's pretty much legged out. I agree with you. I mean, even if it plays another couple weeks, it's not going to make another $100 million. I mean,
yeah. So I think, the way things are going is what we saw with Wakanda Forever. It's headed towards $1 billion. It's not quite there yet. I think it's like 750 million mark or something like that in a post-COVID world.
Yeah.
And the reason why it made it that far is because everybody has curiosity of like what's happening with the story because they've invested so much time in the MCU to find out what happens, right?
Yeah.
But you're not going to get that with just these movies that just come right out the gate costing like $500 million, $300 million, like that's kind of stupid.
Yeah.
That's why I'm kind of partially hoping that Avatar fails because like nobody's invested in this movie and it costs probably $500 million. Yeah. So I think Hollywood needs to understand, just like, what you were saying, like you can make a good movie on a budget. Like that's always been a thing. I don't know when or why we got away with that. I think we got away from it because we saw these like special effects spectacles and we were like, oh, we need to do that. We need to make stuff pretty. And, along the way, like we just let story just kind of fall to the wayside and just made a bunch of sequels and reboots and, and everybody just kind of gave up on being creative with stuff. But this is an example of a movie where it's like, let's take a creative idea. Let's make Santa Claus and have him kill terrorists.
Yeah.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah.
Let's do that.
And by God, it is fun. And like I say, man, it gets an A+ in creative kills. I mean, it's like, wow, they really went there. I mean, so
yeah. So it's like, you don't have to go over the top with certain things. Just sit down and like, okay, what has not been done? What's so far out there that like this might actually hit with people?
Yeah.
And start making that and then try to come up with a decent budget for it. And then boom.
Oh yeah.
Hollywood will be back in business.
Heck yeah. I mean, I'm watching the clip I'm hearing right now. It's like, God dang. But, and the other thing too that they did is that you can tell that they had their thinking cap on when they wrote it. Like, well, what about this? What about the and even some things that happen, like, and the line is said a couple more than once in the movie, is something will happen and Santa will like, or somebody like, how'd you do that, Santa? He's like, well, it's Christmas magic. I don't totally understand how it works sometimes. It's like, but that's okay. That's Christmas magic is a thing in this movie. You're allowed to do it. So, but
here's the thing, though, right? That Hollywood's been trying to make these kind of movies for years. The problem is that, for every one movie that you see that hits, like a John Wick or like a Violent Night,
right?
You literally have 50 films that they've made that have gone nowhere, and it's really hard to find that diamond in the rough, to find that film that sort of breaks out and and becomes bigger than it started off. And that's why you have, you know, these big tentpole films that are the ones that the studio knows, okay, we know we have a proven IP, we know we have a bankable star, we know we have a built-in audience for this thing. You know, and it's those kind of big movies that really allow, in an ideal world, or at least in the way things used to be,
Right.
It's those big films that then allows the studio to make the smaller films and to take the chances on some of these other films. The problem is that, you know, if you're a studio that just does the small films, if you're a studio, you know, that sort of is all about taking the chances and rolling the dice, you know, you're something like A24 or Blumhouse.
I was gonna bring both those up. Yeah.
That you know, that's sort of their stock and trait, but they're not seen as necessarily as big and as massive and as, in a way, successful as a Warner Brothers or a Paramount or a Disney or what have you. That, you know, there's a lot more oversight. There's a lot more stockholder interest in what Disney does and what Warner Brothers does and what Paramount does, as opposed to something like an A24 or a Blumhouse or some of these other smaller studios that, you know, they can roll the dice and they can take the chances that a larger studio, just because of its size, can't really take effectively.
Yeah, but I mean, if you make 5 $20 million films, okay, let's say John Wick, Violent Night, you know, a couple, and 3 of them land, well, hell, that's great. But you make one $200 million film and it tanks, you're in trouble. You know, I mean, and especially now with a lot of these Marvel properties, and we've seen with Marvel and Star Wars and even DC, you know, it's not just the film, it's all the action figures, it's all the supporting comic books, it's, you know, it's all the ancillary merchandising, it's all that stuff. And when the movie tanks, that stuff doesn't sell either. So, I mean, you know,
you would think that, but in some cases, for example, do you know what the biggest moneymaker has been over the past like 20 years for Pixar? Cars.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yes. And that's the only reason they keep making the damn movies. Yeah,
that's exactly why they keep making the damn movies, is because the toy lines are so popular and so profitable.
That's true.
And when you're a big corporation like a Disney or a Warner Brothers, it's all about that whole holistic picture. And let's face it, we're not going to get action figures off of, you know, violent.
No, we're not.
We have John Wick action figures, but they're more for adult collectors. You know, they're not on pegs down at Walmart. You know? Right. And you know, when you're looking at sort of what Disney is doing, and they have all these IPs and they're selling all this merchandise, and they have theme parks, and they have, you know, video games, and they have all this other ancillary stuff. You know, if you're rolling the dice on, let's say, 5 projects, right? And to your point, 3 of them hit. Yeah, but are the 3 of them that are hitting, you know, family friendly? Are they stuff that lends itself to merchandising? Are they something that they can, you know, franchise out? Is there somewhere that they could take it? Those are all the things that they have to think about. Personally, I would love it if Hollywood make a ton of smaller films and really develop those new IPs. I just don't see it happening.
Okay, well, all right. Goldar, did you have something? It looked like you were going to say something.
Well, I just got on Twitter for a second just to see what was out there while we were, you know, discussing you know, movies on a smaller budget. And there's this blurb, I don't know if it's true or not, but it says the canceled Batman movie with Michael Keaton was reportedly going to be Batman Beyond.
No.
Oh.
And I am so disappointed.
Oh no.
This is why
back, you know, like 6 or 7 months ago, I had heard that they were talking about doing a Batman Beyond film.
Yeah.
See, now you talk about like
something.
Okay, this would probably be a really expensive Batman movie.
Yeah.
But this would be your $200 million movie that would hit.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. 100%. Yeah. 100% that movie would hit.
Oh, yeah. But yeah, I think, and I think a part of it too is like we're just in a different time now. Like, like I think American audiences are just more open to weird shit. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
like,
Yeah.
like we were excited about Cocaine Bear last week.
Yeah. That's no lie. Did you see the damn bear's got its own Twitter account?
No, I didn't see that.
Yeah, it's got 50,000 followers already. And
Wow,
and
that's way more than I got.
I know, more than any of us. And the profile picture is the bear eating that brick of cocaine. I mean, it wants to tell its story.
And it's probably on a budget telling its story.
Yeah.
Too.
Oh, yeah. Well, and to Narwhal's point, I heard that's why the damn Monsterverse keeps going. Because those Godzilla toys sell like hotcakes.
Mm-hmm.
And,
I mean,
probably the Transformers too.
Overseas too.
Yeah.
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 But I also wonder if maybe because I've heard some rumblings that based on things like Violent Night, John Wick, Cocaine Bear, that they're predicting that we could see a resurgence in the slasher genre.
Oh, well, I think we already have. I mean,
Yeah.
I say that, maybe not. I mean, but
yeah, I mean, I think Scream did okay. Like,
yeah,
I think it Scream 5. I think it made some money, and it made enough for them to say, let's make a Scream 6.
yeah. You weren't a fan of it though, were you?
Not particularly. It just honestly, it was just the same shit that they've done with the last films. So it was just like, okay, like we're gonna make another one. All right,
all right,
whatever.
okay.
Yeah, but you got A24 that's doing stuff like Bodies. You've got the X series from them. Obviously you've got the whole Annabelle subgenre of films. That's really big.
That's true. All of that stuff is probably made on a budget.
Oh, it is.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's all made on a budget. It's something that is profitable at a small scale. But to the point that I was making earlier, they're not really merchandisable, and that's I think why
not to a mainstream,
big studio.
Yeah. So. Yeah. Well, only time will tell. I'm as much as I just waxed philosophically about how I'm really excited about James Gunn and have a lot of faith in him. But if he canceled Batman Beyond, we may have to have a come to Jesus meeting with him. But.
And here's the thing too. I remember 6 months ago we were all sitting here saying that we are signed up for whatever Taika Waititi shows us.
Yeah.
And that Taika can do no wrong. And then he dropped the turd burger that was Thor: Love and Thunder too. So all of these guys are vulnerable at some point, and it just takes one bad movie, one misstep to completely throw yourself off a cliff.
Ask Patty Jenkins about that.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Wonder Woman 97 got canceled.
Yep.
Starring Jennifer Aniston as the villain. So, all right, guys. Well, unless you guys have anything else, I think we're going to wrap us up tonight.
Wrap her up.
All right. I want to thank everybody who's tuned in. Sprout was here. We had Joel Serbin here. I want to remind everyone that we do not have Sci-Fi Friday tomorrow, but we are preparing some programming to slot into our Friday night program to carry us through the holidays. Be sure I think we got a new episode of Nightcrawlers coming this weekend. Well, as well, we got all kinds of crazy fun stuff over on our YouTube channel. We got old installments of Nightcrawlers. We've got old installments of Fanurism Flicks, of Talking Geek, and even older installments of this program. This one should be up on there probably tomorrow. So for those who tuned in, I want to thank my co-host Goldar and Mr. Narwhal for them. For Fanboys 918, I am the Geek Boy signing off. Peace.